Disclosure News and Commentary number 106, 106, 106, 106, 106. Patreon stuff will show up at the end. I want to jump into this. I don't want this to be too long, but it's obviously going to be really thorough. Normally, on a full disclosure, for a little bit of inside info, normally when I do a full disclosure, it's at least, sometimes more, but it's at least 2 pages of notes, right? It's just crazy, crazy notes, da-da-da-da-da-da, in that scattershot way that I do. Yeah. And this one's only 1 page. And the reason is because a lot of it is just sort of cues for me to talk and expound as much as I feel like expounding. What is our commentary on? It's on the most important lesson that I learned for this past few days where I've been in Tampa. And I want to impart that to you, give you a little insight on that. Like I said, the Patreon stuff will show up in the credit run at the end, which is really exciting. People seem to really like that. I do want to, because this full disclosure is directly sponsored by IWE, May 22nd, 2021, Redemption, with the badass looking graphic and all of that. And I'm going to put the ticket link below. I'm going to talk more and more about that show in the upcoming month, since it's about a month and a half away. But people are already buying tickets. It's going to be a big honkin' whippity-doo deal, and it looks like they're going to outdraw their last show, which for them, they did incredibly well. But then they're looking to do even better this time. We're going to talk about lineups and matches and all of that kind of stuff later on. But I just wanted to put that bug in your ear. IWE is going to do the great thing. Now, Steve, you've got to be burned out on wrestling, right? And anyone I talked to who was a part of that week was just like, dude, I am so burned out. I don't even know if I can watch. But fuck that. You know me. I'm going to watch Dark Elevation, and I'm going to watch Raw tonight. And then tomorrow night will be NXT. See, everything's moved around. It's NXT and Dark. So it's still Tuesday. Got 2 shows. Wednesday is now just Dynamite. Thank God. Thursday is now Impact. So that filled up my day off. And then Friday is SmackDown. Holy shit, Monday through Friday. I'm going to go back to doing reports on all that. I think I'm going to take 1 week off a year, and WrestleMania week seems like a good week for me to not cover every single show, though I still did cover Raw and Elevation. So I have not missed an Elevation, and I am not planning on missing an Elevation. But that's all back to normal for the people that really showed concern. They're like, Steve, it's like, I was busy. And I did get to end up seeing all of those shows, or at least highlights from all of those shows. And things looked really, really great, which is part of what we're going to talk about. Funny story. Patreon videos coming out. I realized that this works really well. So for the people on Patreon, one of the Patreons is going to be about the secret pictures that I took, some of which I should not release and have been advised to not release, but fuck it. It's Patreon, so I'm going to release the secret pictures and the pictures that I got in trouble for, and then some candid shots that I took that I thought were really cool. I saw Chip and his girl Angelos put out one of the pictures. He requested that I send the picture that I took of Chip cleaning her up from the blood that she got wrestling Nolan Edward. And so I sent him that pic, and they put that thing out. But that's just an indication of the kind of cool pictures that I got, because I was really out and about and in the belly of the beast of this thing, as you're going to hear. And then the other Patreon show is about, I'm going to try to keep this one really positive about the really great experiences I had and things like that. Though, I'm still going to slip in bitching here and there. It's what I do. But I'm going to have a separate Patreon video about the shows that fucking tanked and the fucking huge problems that fucking happened. And even with the shows that I was involved with, the fucking drama that went down and the bullshit that happened, you're going to want to hear it from me, because even if you've seen clips online of different things, I got the story. So that's going to be 2 of the Patreon videos that I'm going to do in the next day or so. People have sent me a backlog of stuff to look at. So I'm going to catch up with all of that. Tomorrow, my day is basically dedicated to all of that stuff. Whew. Unboxing. I remember to do it. I love this new desk setup, by the way. I'm going to try to put something maybe here. It doesn't hurt here so much or here, but right here. So I'm going to get something up over here, or maybe I'll move that over there. I don't know. I love that, though. What is this? These are the posters that a guy named Knife West Evans used to do for PCW. So it's all of them, including in the center, Sacred Ground 3, which is always that show. And, of course, this is the fun ladies who send me stuff. And then that is the most gorgeous man in the world. Let's do this unboxing. It's heavy, and it's Pro Wrestling Tees thickness, so we shall see what this is. I feel a heavy backing in the middle, too. What is that? 1 hour tees, garment care instructions. I might take them up on that 1 hour's tee things. We'll see. All right, I'm going to reveal it to you the same time as it gets revealed to me. Ooh, quality shirt. Damn. Oh, shit. Someone sent me the Britt Baker blood shirt. Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. I am going to be at the... well, at least I made the arrangements hotel-wise and the rest of it to be at the AEW... Oh, man. Fits well, too. Oh, Britt Baker. Love, love, love. So I've made arrangements to already be in Jacksonville on May 30th, hotel room and all that stuff. Friends of mine are apparently coming to the show too, so hopefully get to hang out with them and have some great stories. Looking forward to that very much. Okay. First I'm going to cover like the Georgia specific stuff. So Viral has their show. I've already put up the video on the last full disclosure about Viral's show that Eric Walker did. It was really great. You should go check that out. But Charles Felder did a really nice write-up. He really is an advocate for shows in that area, whether it's Livewire, Viral, IW. So, you know, Charles really doing the job there. Nice write-up, nice preview of Viral. Wrestlemania drew 225 in what Larry called his favorite live show experience this year. Wrestlemania, what the fuck? Fucking 30-minute Iron Man match with David... What? And still, they have the Simon Sermon greatness. They had funny stuff. They had... Wrestlemania. Wrestlemania? Doing great shit. Why is Payne your fucking champion? Oh, I know I'm going to get in trouble for that. But come on. Wrestlemania. Come on. I know. Asshole. I did get the asshole thing in. Didn't I say it? Tell me I'm wrong, though. Am I wrong? No. Southern Violence. They were capped off because it was an indoor show. A lot of people were questioning me about that. Oh, the Great Southern Violence. They only drew 150. That's what they were allowed to have in the building. They had 176, actually. 150 paid. Because they were inside, dipshits. And when they're outside, they do as many people as they wanted. I'm sure they turned people away. The Haas match, in particular, I've been told, is something special. That's one of the things I'm going to be looking at tomorrow, including possibly the promos and stuff building up to it. I hope it can deliver. I saw Proc the Croc said, like, I challenge anybody for a harder-hitting match or whatever the fuck. It's like, do keep in mind, I admire his enthusiasm, and I haven't looked at the match yet, and I hope to be impressed by him and Austin Tower, but that's fucking all I watched was fucking, I don't know how many wrestling matches I watched live. It was a lot, because there was a lot of shows, so, yeah. I saw some hard-hitting shit. I mean, you know, Dan Moff, I saw, you know, Justin Kyle, and Bruce Santee 3. So my standards are a little high. Yeah, Dan Moff and Nolan Edward, or, you know, or the match for the Deathmatch Championship where they put broken glass on the no mat No canvas, just wood and broken glass, and they're doing headlock takeovers into it. And that was the most minor thing they did, and that still made people leave puddles of blood everywhere. So yeah, I saw some fucking tough shit, but I am looking forward to that fucking thing. I am looking forward to it. APW and PCW with reportedly incredibly low crowds. I'm hoping they can turn that around because they're both doing good work. Or I know PCW for sure is doing good work. But those low crowds are a little disconcerting, I'm sure. Pro South, by the way, has the Trinity Cup that they do, but it's over 2 days, I've been told. I would assume Friday and Saturday. So that's really cool. I'll be curious to hear about that. And I think it benefits Pro South. Yes, they'll be able to advance stories and tell new stories and that kind of thing. But it also kind of gives a break from their regular show, which can be a good thing, actually, I think. All right, let's start jumping into some of this Tampa shit. First, a story. What was I doing today? Why am I getting full disclosure out relatively late? Well, when I was at the house, by the way, anybody who thought like those thunderstorms and the rain and all that stuff, like, oh, how big of a deal was that? Here's how much of a big deal it was. It was, one, it fucked up my WrestleMania plans because the person who was supposed to get me a ticket, they ended up like hemming and hawing about shit because of ticket prices. And then the ticket prices did come down. So WrestleMania, like luckily WrestleMania went so well that they've now turned the story into, see, it was okay. And we did some really great matches and stuff like that. And that's wonderful. I'm going to talk about a little bit about that in the commentary. But the story just as well could have been, holy shit, this is a fucking disaster. They did have to delay shit. And if winds had blown literally a different way, because I drove back on Sunday, which would have been day 2 of WrestleMania, in some gnarly shit. And if that shit hit at 7 o'clock at WrestleMania, they would have been fucked. But apparently I got fucked a little bit because apparently a lightning strike or two caused a surge that blew out my router, internet, cable box. No matter what I did, I couldn't get them to come back, so I had to take them in today. But the good thing is they replaced all the equipment. They had it all there in the store, and I brought it all back and hooked it all up. And only just recently did I get all that shit hooked up because I had to redo the internet and all that shit. But all that shit's done. But just to give you an idea of what I came home to yesterday. So I came home, and they had announced that, no, we had the service outages, which, again, people are like, oh, that happens all the time. It's never happened. Never happened. I've lived in this place going on 3 years, and I've never had anything go out. Not the cable, not anything. And so for that to happen in that way was a big... So outages, maybe that's why the power isn't coming on in these two things, though that didn't make sense to me. And then this morning I woke up and I went, no, this shit's fucked. And so I called and they're like, yeah, no, that shit's dead. You should just go in and get it replaced. I had things to do. I had to collect money from somebody owing me money. And then I had to do this. But I got it all done. And in fact, getting the equipment from Spectrum was the easiest part of my day. I remember in Georgia having to deal with whoever the fucking cable provider was there. And it was always a fucking nightmare. And the shit was going out all the time. I gotta say Spectrum. I gotta give them their props. I have like top of the line internet shit and all the rest of this stuff that I continue to upgrade, and they continue to be very reasonable on the price, sometimes just giving me the added services for free so I won't fucking leave. By the way, there's my little advice. Never hurts to call your cable provider and go like, I'm kind of thinking of canceling. It's amazing what they'll do to keep you. So I have a very good internet package and all the rest of it. But that shit takes a lot of... But the great news is, now when people come to my house, they go, Wi-Fi? I go, you'll be able to find it. Because it says Stephen Platinum. I finally made that switch. Because I'm old, and it takes me a long time to figure out how to do shit. Okay. Whether it was the family reunion shows, ICW, Action and SUP together, the Then and Now shows, all the rest of the stuff that I saw. Oh, man. It was huge. Let me say on the front end, that I was really impressed. Never got to see action up close. There's a number of wrestlers that I had heard about and maybe seen on IWTV, but getting to see them in person, even meet and talk with them a while, nothing but impressed, right? Alex Kane comes to mind. JD Drake comes to mind. He and I had a really great conversation. There's my favorites, and I don't hide. I mean, full disclosure, I don't hide the fact that I've fucking loved Nolan Edward for a long time. Nolan Edward is the reason that I got into the deathmatch thing, because once we interviewed him, and he was like, come to the shit. And it was a great excuse for Jeff. Jeff was like, yeah, I'll come down, so I could go with Jeff. I mean, that's what's led to all of this. People have asked, like, what capacity did you work, Steve? And people who were there could tell you, certainly. But what it was this. I was there for every fucking show that went on at 81 Bay. And I was going to be at the Pawn Shop show, but then they had to move the Pawn Shop show into 81 Bay. So literally any wrestling show that took place at 81 Bay, I witnessed, at least in part. Only one show, Saturday at 3 o'clock, the Beyond show, I didn't see very much of because I had, because that's the show, I'll just be honest, I was the least interested in. I was not going to miss Action at SUP. I was not going to miss that fucking show. So I had to make a call because the first day, started at noon, right? You had a family reunion show at noon, a family reunion show at 3. Then you had ICW at 6. And I mean, it was nuts. At 6. And then you had freaking No Peace Underground at midnight. So, and I was there for all of it. What capacity did I work? I basically did whatever I was asked. If it was Matt Griffin asking me to find brooms because they were going to clear out the thumbtacks at the end of the Nolan Angelus match as fast as possible, I motherfucking found the brooms and told their crew where to get him. If it was Ron Nemi needing a fucking beer at commentary, by God, I made sure he got it quick. But I had to fill my own role as well. And part of that role was checking on the guys that I thought needed to be checked on, arranging for things that people needed, fucking helping set up the ring, helping take down the ring. I just did everything and anything. Most notably, the thing that people were going to remember the most is after that first night. Now, keep in mind, right? I had driven, so we stayed at my place Wednesday night. So Wednesday night, I poked my head in at No Peace Underground, just to kind of show face and see what the atmosphere was like. And it was packed, right? That's the busiest. That's the most people I've ever seen in the sound bar to see No Peace. So I was like, woof. I would have been more nervous, but one, I've already had the vaccination, and two, I'm a masked motherfucker. I'm going to address the mask shit because I saw some people posting online that have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, by the way. So from there, I went to 81 Bay in Tampa. So it's like an hour and a half drive. Got there at 10. To my relief, and I said this in the diary, but I'm going to go into a little more detail here. To my relief, there were people there. And then including two guys that I would end up working with quite a bit, Josh Johnson and David, who I liked quite a bit. We didn't have a lot of conversations, but we clearly knew like we were the guys that we kind of make eye contact a lot. You know, is this going to be handled? And I started thinking. Obviously, I helped put up the ring and that kind of shit. First time I touched a wrestling ring in the capacity to put it up, I can't even remember when. And then so all of that was kind of handled and good. And then I went back to my place, got a few hours of sleep, and then back in the car into Tampa. Got there by 10. Show started at noon. My general impressions were people were there to show out and put in a position, whether it was on the Action SUP show, the ICW shows, the family reunion shows, the then and now shows, the beer house shows, whatever the fuck. something that I really liked about those shows, those IWTV related shows, is people were put in a position to succeed. And for the most part, absolutely came through. I only remember one or two matches out of the entire 3 days of just 12-hour fucking shows and all this kind of shit. 12 hours of show, where I went, that didn't do it. But all the rest did. But so from noon till 2:30 in the morning, wrestling and more wrestling with little breaks in between the 3-hour shows maybe, but wrestling, wrestling, and more wrestling. ICW, I will say, had the first show that was like, oh fuck, where it was packed, where it really hit that energy level. But both of the family reunion shows were very good. Not a lot of people there to watch them in person, but the streaming part did really, really well. So a lot of people saw those shows, man. And ICW delivered that, and everything was great. I had to figure out my role quickly, beyond just being like a gopher. And so I figured out my job, which was to take this tablet. I mean, anybody who saw me at those shows would say the things that they remember the most. And apparently I got caught on IWTV a lot, which is not a shock. On the first day, I just wore the green platinum freaking periodic table shirt, and I'm running around with this thing because I was tweeting constantly. This was my experiment. Ron never told me what my role would exactly be, except I would be there to back them up and help. And then I figured out quickly what I wanted my role to be, which is to exemplify and to amplify what was going on. Because there's a lot of competition between the GCW collective shows and a million other shows running around. Everything from, and then takeovers happening, right? So I wanted people to get a taste of, here's what we're doing. And you can watch it on IWTV, or you can get your ass down here and see in person. And to capture these great moments and to make the wrestlers feel good. My goal was to put out minimum one tweet with a picture or video of every match. And I did that. Even when I was going to take it easy, like for the Action SUP show, I was like, I'm not working that show per se. Or no, the Beer House show, Tony Deppin's Beer House, right? I wasn't going to work that show. And in fact, Ron told me, don't work that or the Beyond show. Just show up at the pawn shop at 6, right? Which ended up being 81 Bay. But I was there to see Dan and Tank, which I'm going to talk about in the commentary. So I was there, and I was like, fuck, as long as I'm here, I might as well just keep doing what I'm doing. So I just kept doing it. So my goal was to put out one tweet, and then one extra tweet. So I say one tweet, but it ends up being 2. And you're saying, well, it's just a tweet. But have you looked at my tweets? They're not, I mean, I push it to the 140 character limit. That's one thing. And I really wanted to give a sense of like, here's what makes this unique and special. Because just like Bianca Belair is supposed to be the EST, right? Every one of these matches, the wrestlers, shows in their own way were the EST of something, right? Casey Kirk is the greatest heel manager going right now. Yeah, though Dan's getting back in the game, so we shall see. But she's the est. Nolan had the greatest sort of elevation story. Tank had the greatest surprise story. Like, so everybody, Alex Kane is the one who lived up to advanced billing. Ocoee Edwards, right? Ocoee Edwards against John Davis was the most thrilling to me in a lot of ways. And by the way, Ocoee Edwards came in, he flew in, and then they ended up putting him on the second flight. So then he had to actually get a taxi because there were no Ubers available to rush to the show. Him and John Davis barely had time to go. Then they went and they beat each other's ass. And then Ocoee hung out for a few more hours and then caught a flight home. He literally came in for WrestleMania week just to do the one match because he really wanted to do it against John Davis. That's the kind of dedication that people showed up and down the board. Is it impressive that Nolan Edward wrestled 5 billion times? Of course. Is it impressive that Jordan Oliver wrestled 5 billion times? Of course. And then got that hit on the back of his head, and then it kind of slowed him down. And Brandon Kirk, crack, nose broke, and that messed him up, but they found a way to book around it at ICW, still have him involved. But I know he was disappointed, but it is what it is, right? With all of that shit happening, everybody showed up. Everybody showed up and really delivered. The 2 matches between the women on the Beer House show I thought were outstanding. I was really impressed with SUPN action. I really enjoyed watching those. And if I was ever going to hate any of this stuff, any of the this would have been the 3 days, because I saw a lot of wrestling and I was incredibly tired. So was everybody. I mean, I cannot emphasize that enough. You have to understand that even people like Matt Griffin, Scott Hensley was there with his family and still would come back for stuff. Like, these guys all watched like ICW's big shows, even though it wasn't theirs. They still showed up for this shit. This was an all hands on deck kind of experience. And getting to meet Dylan Hales, who I'd never met before, and probably I've talked shit about him, and he probably hasn't thought very much of me, but it didn't fucking matter once we met each other. In fact, we got along swimmingly. That was the other shock, is I got along swimmingly with everybody. Even after, so the first night, so No Peace does their show at midnight, and none of those motherfuckers cleaned up a fucking goddamn thing. And having gotten to know the owner of 81 Bay, or the guy who was kind of facilitating everything, love that guy, right? Typical guy that Ron Nemi knows. Typical guy that now Steve Madison knows. And I'll just be honest. My thinking was twofold on cleaning all that shit up. Because No Peace Underground does a deathmatch show, so there's broken shit all over the place. And for the Madman Pondo match, there's fucking broken beer bottle shit all over the place. And Madman Pondo and the other guy, Casanova Valentine, blood buckets. There's fucking blood everywhere. And everybody, they just left. I'm not talking Madman Pondo. I'm talking about, like, there was no crew from No Peace Underground to clean that shit up. So I fucking cleaned it up. I was just like, maybe I'll start taking broken tables and barbed wire shit out to the dumpster, and they'll see me doing it, and they'll go like, "That's not that guy's job. We should help." Fuck that. No, they fucking blinders on went around me. So I had a choice to make. It's 2:30/3 in the morning. I'm looking at this thing. I looked at the back and went, "That's fucking trash too." If I'm the owner and I walk in on this place, I'm pissed. If I'm, Action, IWTV, ICW guys, I look at that and I'm pissed. And then one of the employees thought, "Well, I heard that there are people coming in at 8 in the morning to do," and I went, "No, they're not." I said, I at 10 at the earliest, right? Everybody's wiped out. There's no way anyone's coming in at 8. And I just went, fuck it, I'll do it. So I stayed there. I don't know when I got out of there. It was late, 4:35 in the morning. I just cleaned it all up. The other employee there was there to take care of 81 Bay, but by the end, I mean, it was me and Chris was his name, I remember. But it was me swept up. Why? One, I wanted to show that I'm not above fucking anything. Why should I be? Everybody else is busting their ass and contributing. The least I can do is do the same. And so I cleaned it up. And I'm not sorry that I did it. I'm very glad that I did it because it let things go smoother the next day. I couldn't imagine if all those people came in. Now, granted, there would have been many hands instead of just mine, so they would have got everything done faster. But instead, they were able to just kind of clean up, over my, I was just there to take care of the big shit. Let me just take care of this and sweep the ring out that's certainly nothing that anybody would have wanted to walk in on. And the back area was fucking gross. I will never get, this is my only complaint about the wrestling. I will never get why people just can't clean up their own shit. I will never get why they were fucking literally more than 100 cups instead of them being thrown away. I'll never get that shit, but it is what it is. Other shows definitely took place. I mean, I can't deny that John Moxley shit was amazing. I really wanted to get to the Effie's Brunch show, but it just wasn't doable because it started at 11. I thought it would start earlier, and then maybe I'd poke my head in there. But I just wasn't able to do it because the Beer House show Tank and Dan were going to be on, and there's no way I was missing that shit. That was some of the best times that I had were having late lunches with Jeff and Tank and Dan was amazing. It was really wonderful. WrestleMania, I'll get to that in the commentary part. I'm almost there. Masks. I saw somebody comment that like people in Florida don't wear masks because they were talking about the GCW collective shit. Well, let me tell you, that is true. That I looked at those crowds, like for all the Mox shit and all the rest of it, and yeah, people weren't wearing masks. I will tell you, at 81 Bay, it was about fucking mask time. Right? Less people were drinking. They were not only encouraged, they were required to have masks on constantly. I found myself constantly having to take things on and off as I did different things, dealt with different people, drank water, all this kind of stuff. It was hard to keep conscious about it, but I did so. And so were the people who were working around me. Did everybody wear masks? If you sit there, look at IWTV stuff, and sure, you'll catch people. But the prevailing attitude was, while you were in 81 Bay, you put a mask on. Yeah. That's what I got to say about that shit. Now the commentary. What's the commentary about? I'll keep it simple. Something that struck me, even as I was looking at comments from wrestling people about WrestleMania, down to wrestling fans, because you got to understand, since I'm tweeting constantly, people are adding me. I can say this, and it blows my mind. Every single tweet that I sent out, I picked up minimum 2 people who followed me afterwards. So think about how many fucking matches that I tweeted about, or just general experiences, or putting over Larry Legend and how great he is, or just general thoughts that I had. And I'm picking up Twitter followers. So I'm seeing, and then I tend to follow back just to be polite. And then so I see what different wrestling fans, for example, are saying about stuff. And what shocked me is not that people critiqued. I mean, people are allowed to critique. Fuck, that's what I do, right? I get it. But there seemed to be a stubborn desire to not be happy for people. Just a desire to dig in your heels no matter what you were witnessing. And if I was on team IWTV, I'm just going to fucking hate on the other groups. And the other groups are going to hate, or people were just going to shit on WrestleMania. It didn't matter how great Sasha and fucking Bianca Belair was, and it was fucking great. It doesn't matter how great fucking Roman Reigns, Edge, and Daniel Bryan were. It didn't matter how fucking good Bad Bunny did, which blew everybody away. And how could it not? Like, people just couldn't be happy. And the delight that people had that, like, WrestleMania is delayed, ha, and, like, hoping that things got as shitty as possible. And hoping that things got shitty as possible as far as everything went. Even the Teddy Hart shit, right? Where people were using it as a bludgeon. You didn't kick Teddy Hart out, we did, so we're bad. Like, all that kind of shit. I gotta say this. Here's my takeaway from all of it. And this is, look, people have their thoughts about me. And I hear about almost all of them, by the way. Um, Yet I continued to do this. Why? Because, fuck, right? And at the end of the day, like, I was thrilled. I was thrilled Action did so well. I was thrilled how good the bell to bell was. I was thrilled at looking at ICW shit and being really proud that in some small way I was able to sort of draw some attention to it because it was so great. But you know what I was also thrilled with? When I would watch clips of the GCW shit at night and how fucking awesome it was that Moxley showed up and did the shit with Nick Gage. And it was just fucking great. Or some of the cooler shit that, um, from like Planet Death or the F show. And just how proud I was. Like, oh, look, the fucking scissor kick that Ashton Starr did. And I was just like, it's fucking awesome. Like, just be fucking happy for people. Just be fucking happy for people. I'm sure there's people who just, their first thought when people are like praising Nolan Edward is to go like, well, but this guy wrestled more matches or whatever the fuck, like bullshit. Like, just be fucking happy. Be happy that these men and women came and fucking did their shit. And don't look for a thing to nitpick to the point where you're trying to demean people. Like, you gotta understand. To put these shows on was an insane gamble and risk. And in many cases, I saw and heard about other places where the crowds were, like the live crowds, were virtually not there. If you get a fucking 10 in the morning fucking slot off the beaten path, nobody's going to be there to watch that shit. And I got all the fucking reports from that shit too. Right? But does that mean I wasn't happy for the guys that I talked about who worked in that building and got seen by promoters and then those promoters booked them to do other shows? Of course I was fucking happy. Right? Even if there's people that I don't particularly care for or I think are really full of shit, that's got nothing to do with the fucking wrestlers that are there to try to make good and do their shit. I could be happy. And WWE, was this the worst build to a WrestleMania ever? Absolutely. Every fucking match. None of them were fucking built well. You could argue that the Roman thing was built a little better. Sure. Yeah. But everything else was shit. I mean, I guess people would argue that, oh, but Fiend, Randy Orton. I mean, and if that match was shit, like, but fuck, if people liked it, good for you, right? But fuck, I was always glad to see that no matter how badly booked it is and how badly run it is in so many different ways, that at the end of the day, you put these motherfuckers in the ring and you fucking unfetter them a little bit. And boy, do they produce. And I was thrilled that Sasha and Bianca Belair meant so much to so many fucking people. And the fact that anybody would try to nitpick, like I saw somebody go like, yeah, but there were parts that looked a little rough. Yeah, guess what? Fucking, I hate to tell you guys this. I like things that look a little rough around the edges. When it comes to something that's supposed to be simulating a fight, I think it looks better. I think when stuff is too choreographed, I get tired of, okay, here's the cliche that needs to die. Wrestling's not ballet. Yeah, it is. The problem is you're trying to patronize it by saying ballet is me. Ballet physically is an incredibly specialized thing that it requires an incredibly specialized mentality to do and physicality. That's pro wrestling. And ballet dancers are tough as fuck. And they have to, and the work that they do outside of the curtain raising and the curtain dropping is the real job. That's pro wrestling too. In fact, pro wrestling should be so lucky as to be ballet. And at its best, it is. But the only difference between the two is pro wrestling looks better when things aren't perfect. Whereas ballet, they have to be. So in that sense, ballet is even tougher. But I was thrilled, right? I'm just looking down here. I'm thrilled that Nolan had that time. Because, you know, with all that fucking canceling shit that people try to do, they could have fucked that guy's fucking career up. But he made it through. And triumphed. I can't imagine how he feels. John Wayne Murdoch being just stamped as the fucking top deathmatch guy. It fucking means something. And you can fucking bitch about deathmatch wrestling and you can try to cornet me to death. Nobody can tell me that that guy isn't fucking something special. And I see it in the way that he treats people, the way that he takes that role as locker room leader very seriously. If you haven't looked at the shit with him and Teddy Hart in the fucking parking lot, it's nuts. But it's way more than that. And I'll say that John Wayne Murdoch, too, is one of those guys who recognizes me and we acknowledge each other every time we see each other. Because he's smart enough. One, you could say, oh, it's cynically, you could say, oh, well, he's just making sure he gets good press. It's not that. It really isn't. He's just a guy. He's a decent dude. He is every man, even though down to his appearance. But then you realize he's not any man. That's what makes him fucking special. Brandon and Casey didn't go out in that last match the way they wanted to, but I'd say overall, though, they had a great fucking outing. And when I put that shit up about Casey fucking getting legitimate heel heat in this era where people think that that doesn't exist, they're wrong. Right? But most of all, Dan, Reverend Dan and fucking Tank. They're friends of mine. Now, I had never met Tank face to face, but we've exchanged messages for years. Mostly of the, holy shit, thank you for fucking tearing apart so-and-so. And that goes on both ends. My God. What do you think about so-and-so? Oh, fucking dumb shit. No. He's a dumb shit. Whatever. So Tank and I have talked shit privately for years, but we never met, but I met him. And Dan and I are becoming fast, good, very good friends. And I will admit, I was nervous because I was like, you know, the way they used New Jack in the Then and Now show was perfect in the sense that, like, they protected him. He came out, the song played, people were happy. He literally had to have somebody there to throw the trash can full of goodies into the ring because New Jack couldn't do it himself. He couldn't do shit. He didn't take a bump. He didn't do any of that shit. He just hit people with some shit and then cut a fucking inappropriate promo that I thought kind of worked against what they were going for. But it's whatever. It's fucking New Jack. But people were happy. But I thought Tank would do much the same. He'll go out there, kind of walks through some shit. He won't do some shit. The opposite happened. That Beer House show, him and one called Manders, fucking, it was jaw-droppingly great. And then when the opportunity came up for Tank to be in the ICW show against Neil Diamond Cutter, I was excited for him and Dan. And Dan got to cut the fucking promos and immediately drew the crowd in. Dan was he and Casey were the two great manager performances that I saw from any show, including WrestleMania, including takeovers, including GCW and all that shit. Dan and fucking Casey stood out. It's impressive. Dan cut those promos and then Tank wrestled those matches. And to be there when the crowd chanted Tank, Tank, Tank at the end of his match and then chanted please come back, and Danny D'Amato went out there with the microphone and talked about what a legend that Tank was, and then told Tank privately later, you're going to be back, we're going to bring you back. I'm fucking getting misty about this shit because how could you not be happy for that? And then you realize Tank's story and Dan's story, that everybody's got a story that does this shit. Everybody's got a hope and a desire that came in. And, you know, I would get messages like Hold My Beer. He'd probably get mad that I'm telling you this, but like Hold My Beer Hansen messaged me and he goes like, fuck, I should have tried to get booked in Tampa. It's like, of course you should have. Of course you should have tried. But you would have had some stiff competition, kid, because this is everybody who came to Tampa to work in whatever capacity did so in the hopes of being part of something bigger than themselves, that they themselves could get the reflected light. Let's just be honest. That you're using the experience to help yourself as much as you're contributing to the greater whole. And knowing that, I just can't be mad, right? I just can't be like, WrestleMania was built shitty, and there's so many shitty aspects to it about how they did the tickets and all the rest of that. That's got nothing to do with fucking Sasha and Bianca Belair getting into that ring and fucking tearing it up and inspiring people. That's what Tampa, that's my big takeaway, is at the end of it all, I feel happy for all the things that went through, from the newest guy who's just trying to get booked onto a show who ends up getting booked, to the people who needed a form of redemption that got it, to people who were tested in a role and lived up to it. And that includes me, by the way. This was a test for me. Is Steve going to be able to be fucking useful? This isn't booking or running a show. I didn't do any of that. Could I find a way to fucking contribute? And from pushing a broom to lifting a piece of the ring to finding a way to emphasize and make the wrestlers feel good, but also for people to feel like, holy shit, they're doing something important, to putting a spotlight on the things that I felt like needed to have a spotlight on them. I found my role too. And maybe there are people who aren't happy about that. People aren't going to be happy that I'm going to get involved in shows more and more and more. And God willing, by the end of the year, maybe in a much more significant way for a living. Right? And I can accept the fact that there are people who are just not going to be happy no matter what. But here's my urge to you. Allow yourself to be happy, even for people that you consider to be rivals or some kind of shit. Right now, I've said it before, we're in the countdown for Elevation. Be happy for the achievements of others, because this is a time in wrestling where there is a harvest to be reaped. There's a lot of jobs available. And instead of begrudging those that are aspiring and doing the work and putting themselves out there and taking the risk and doing it, I get that instinct as much as anybody to be bitter and angry. But my advice would be to let it go and to start over. And sure, bitterness and all these things to be upset about will accumulate again. It's inevitable. But go through the process of freeing yourself of that. I'm glad that I did it, and I wish the same for you. Because that feeling is what's going to allow you to move forward and progress. Not just as a wrestling person, but as a person. And to be inspired. This has been Full Disclosure.